Okay, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Crypto with Chris. Today's episode is probably going to be a little bit shorter since there's not a ton going on, but I did notice some new levels come into play on Bitcoin and also some possible changes to the Dixie and liquidity that we'll touch on. But before we get into that, I wanted to first remind everybody to follow my Twitch channel so that you can get alerts and also comment in the chat. You do need to be a follower in order to comment, and I'd love it if more people did so that we can make this a bit of an interactive show. Secondly, if you go to my Twitch channel, you'll see that there's only 2 or 3 of my past episodes. This is because Twitch doesn't allow me to store episodes beyond 7 days. So after each show is completed, I upload them to my YouTube channel so that they can still be accessible. So go check out my YouTube channel for old shows if you're interested. And then lastly, I made a Telegram alerts channel so that you can get notified whenever I'm going to be on a show. And sometimes I do shows for Real Vision as well. And my Telegram is where you'll get notified for all those. Actually, and in fact, I will be doing a show Wednesday, my own show, my Twitch show, because I'll be on a Real Vision show. I'll be on the Pro Crypto Distillery show instead. So if you're a Real Vision Pro Crypto subscriber, be sure to check that out. And if you're not a subscriber, you totally should be. You're missing out on pretty much the best online community I think I've ever been a part of by a huge margin. So anyway, all the links to all these channels is in the description of each video and also in my Twitch channel. And with that, let's get started. So, all right, so taking a look at Bitcoin here. Like I said, a couple of different levels. Well, first thing I noticed looking at Bitcoin on the daily, the 10-day has come down to finally meet price, which is what we were, obviously expecting. And I noticed too, it's really held as resistance this whole way. I mean, even as it's starting to round back up and over, you'll see price isn't really, it's just kind of bouncing down off of it. And then the 20-day is quickly approaching too. So on the the daily doesn't look great. Yeah, we got this this bullish divergence flag here, but that's that's nothing. Really, I'm not seeing anything happening on the daily. But the weekly is where I'm noticing, well, frankly, some pretty ugly stuff that I wanted to kind of get into. Few things. Okay, so well, actually, let's look at levels here. So I do think Bitcoin is going to bounce. I think anyway, that's my base case. Of course, it's anybody's guess. And really, that kind of comes back to just like one, a reflexive bounce. Two, possibly the grayscale announcement could come out tomorrow. Three, possibly, well, we have this ETF, this first window approving, although everybody's expecting this to be a delay. But I also think that this is priced in. I think that the delay is priced in. And I think that, we'll just see some upward price action. I do think that likely this, this clearly is holding holding support, this level here that we've had held for, well, since this candle was created, this big one. It hasn't yet come back down to this weekly invalidation level at the bottom of this wick here. It hasn't even really come close to it. That's something that I'm certainly paying attention to that I'll get into in a minute. But I just feel like, it's not just going to go sideways here. And I don't think it's just going to go down. But we'll get back to the weekly here. So on the weekly, conversely, I do think that the trend has shifted. And what I've noticed here is a few things. One, this DSS momentum oscillator has rolled over. Two, if we look at these moving averages, the 10 and the 20-week moving averages, we can see that they're actually, starting to converge back together. And if we look at this graph here, which is just the spread between these moving averages, it has rolled over, and the high is sort of in terms of the divergence, and they're starting to come back together. So these are coming back together. The 10 is on track to now roll over and close below the 20, and both of these are rolling over. The 20 rolling over is not a good look at all. Really, if we go back throughout Bitcoin's history, when the 20 rolls over, price goes down for a while. And it's rolled over. So it's like, what else can you do? You kind of just have to say, okay, well, this is what it is. This is a structural shift. This is a big trend reversal shift on the weekly time frame, and that's you can't ignore that. You can't deny that. That just it's telling you right here that this is what's going on now, and you can either ignore it at your peril, or you can accept it and just, go with what it's telling you. Also, we've closed below this 200-week moving average and really aren't, even giving it any kind of a retest. So that's ugly too. So here's what I kind of am looking at now in terms of what I think could happen. Initially, I was thinking, we'd get a reflexive bounce and it would push back up into this area, like well up into 29,000, maybe even as high as 30,000, up into this sort of big sort of cushion area. But but now with these moving averages rolling over, I'm kind of looking at these moving averages as the potential high, and particularly the 20, because that's the mean in this weekly, Bollinger Band, and getting a mean reversion would put us back to, well, that's even if it shot straight back up there, but we're looking at, what is this at right now? 28,000. By the time it kind of keeps rolling down and price comes back down to meet it, we could be looking at 27.5. So we might only get a pump back to 27.5. It might wick back up by the time, and it's another thing to keep in mind too is, as this is going down, this 10 week is going to keep going down at a sharper rate and will likely cross back over. So it's like, well, you ask yourself, well, maybe it'll blow through the 20 and up to the 10, but by the time it even gets to the 20, the 10 could already be lower than it. And you know, so unless it does it right now today, basically, or this week, um, the 10 doesn't even come into play in that scenario. So I'm going to be looking at a bounce back up to basically to this 20-week moving average as my sort of exit liquidity, I think. And I feel like if we don't show a strong push back up through this moving average, and well up into the upper half of the bands, and showing some strong momentum, maybe on the back of a grayscale approval, or something like that, then I'm going to look to get out. I'm going to look to exit most of my position and look to buy back cheaper, because I just feel like you can't ignore this trend reversal. You can't ignore this. Um, there's more downside to go, and um, barring ETFs, I think that there's no other real narrative in play that's gonna dictate this. So um, so yeah, so I'm looking for, like I said, a bit of a roll up over, uh, kind of just some fizzle sideways price action, low volatility kind of nonsense, in this range here, in between, I guess 20, 27, 28,000 range, and then roll over, and then probably, come back down to, well, basically, here's the three scenarios. I've put this, let's see. So I put this one polyline in play. And honestly, I think that this is probably my base case, but there's a couple other things I'm looking for. Um, First of all, if it just goes and nukes straight down from here, is any kind of daily close below this line here, below this weekly cycle invalidation level, I'm out at this point. Because I think it's only going to keep going lower. I don't really, unless it just kind of wicks down on an intraday and then shoots back up, to kind of, just kind of blow some people out, liquidate a few people, and then shoot back up. But I don't see, uh, yeah, I just don't see much beyond that. So like, we're looking at here, and I'd have to revise this actually a little bit too. I need to draw a new poly. In fact, here, let's just get rid of this. Um, let's draw a new one. So I mean, yeah, we're looking at maybe 27s, based on those moving averages. So, like something like this, and then just sideways, 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 like it does, sideways, and then either just nuke back down to here, or keep going down to here, or bottom fall out all the way down to here. Um, Come on. So the case here for this really low level is if there's a big delay or even worse news, coming out of this ETF approval. Um, and I know this is kind of a funny looking line, but at the same time, it doesn't really look much different than this one right here. So honestly, I feel like this is, a pretty likely scenario. I think it'll probably peak somewhere, like I said, in day 20-ish, give or take around here, maybe in the next week or so. And then kind of, it's going to be, I can totally see like very much a repeat of this current cycle here, but with just way less of a initial upsurge and then just nothing, nothing driving this. And it just loses steam. And really, like I've said too, it's going to come down to this ETF. If it gets approved, it goes up. If it gets delayed or denied or somehow kicked back, then we lose it. But if we look at that on the weekly, also depending on what interest rates happen, what the Fed does with the September meeting coming up next month, um, it's not out of the question that we could get a round trip all the way back down. And so I'm going to kind of prepare for that. If that plays out, it would likely play out into sort of late November, December too. Like if we don't get this ETF approval, you know, anything's possible, including up to and including a round trip. And it's funny, I say that, and that seems crazy, but like we talked about, um, do I still have these? Yeah, these price ranges that I touched on, all these big corrections. Every time it blows through the 20-week moving average, it's upwards of a 50% correction. And when I first looked at that here, oops, when I first looked at that here and I drew 50% down, that's, I mean, what do you know? That's a round trip. That's actually more than a round. That's below the yearly open. Would that be so bad? Honestly, I don't think so. Um, And the reason I say that is because, first of all, it's not unprecedented at all. We already know that. We already know that even in the last two cycles, the first, the 2015 cycle, it totally did the same thing. It totally did round trip in year one. In the second cycle, it didn't quite round trip. Granted, COVID was in play, but it just about did. It dropped another, I mean, it went 80% down of that round trip. So totally normal, and it's fine because it's not like that's going to ruin everything. It doesn't ruin anything. It happens all the time in crypto. It happens all the time in the first year of a 4-year cycle. So I don't know. Is this my base case? Probably not. I still think that this level, or maybe this level here, where this wick came down first on this first pump, it doesn't make as much sense if you look at the levels like on the week or on, looking at these candle bodies and this resistance level here that it sort of had formed going all the way back. This candle is a bit sort of in no man's land, or well, I don't know. Maybe this level. I guess we can draw this into, but oops, otherwise, I think we're coming all the way back down. And that's okay, honestly, because like, if you kind of are prepared for it, I've already dumped a fair bit. I've probably dumped about 30% of my stack into cash so that I can, if right now it tanks in this moment without even doing any kind of upswing, I'm prepared to buy the dip. And actually, if it just keeps going down right from here, I'm not going to buy right away. If any kind of quote buy the dip, like if it loses this level here, I'm definitely going to be looking for it to come to this level. Certainly, if it loses this level before going back up and doing anything like this. If it just, we get some other big kind of peak candle coming up this week or next week that blows through this level, I'm going to hold out for here, maybe even here, maybe even here. I'm not going to be looking to buy right away. Um, and I'll probably have orders in place around these ETF windows to kind of pick it up on the upswing if it does. But outside of that, I've got dry powder ready to go, and I'm looking at this sort of action right here as a plan to kind of sell into some exit liquidity, because I know as soon as it starts pumping up again, people are going to get excited and people are going to start buying and thinking that it's the run. And unless we see like some major weekly closes below this 20-week moving average first, um, you know, I don't know. And I don't know if a grayscale ETF approval is enough to really push it up into this other range and to break this resistance level that we've been dealing with for this whole year, this 31,000 resistance level. I just don't know about that. I really think it's going to come down to these other ones. Um, and so yeah, so I'm going to look at this as exit liquidity and hopefully pick up a few extra bucks and then look to buy everything much cheaper. Because I just feel like that this is sort of the writing on the wall with this trend reversal and with this historical pattern of Bitcoin correcting upwards of 50% on these types of moves. So on these types of breakdowns under the 20-week moving average and the 20-week moving average rolling over like it is. It's just there's no precedent or there's no history for it to just up and go, okay, never mind, and blow back up through here. It just you know, again, outside of an ETF, it just doesn't really do that. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. I did want to touch on a few other things. I wanted to touch on, well, let's look at liquidity. One thing I did notice was the Dixie, it's kind of leveled off a little bit. Um, and it's doing this thing where, oops, it's doing this thing where it kind of set a low here and then it rebounded, set a high, and then it kind of set a lower low here and then a lower high and then a lower low, and it's sort of come back. It's not it's almost it's about the same really. It's maybe a tick lower officially. It didn't quite get as high. So and now it's got a red candle forming, and now we've got a little bit of a dip in liquidity, or actually a boost in liquidity since this is inverted. So this structure is downwards. This moving average is downwards. Yeah, we have some kind of quick sort of uptrends, but overall, this moving average structure is downwards. This price action is downwards, and this downtrend is downwards. So until this is broken, it's still a downtrend. And um, if we look at it on the daily, I don't know if it's still there. Oh yeah, okay. So it's still got a bearish divergence flag that's popped up too on the daily, sort of for the first time in a while. Also, one thing I noticed, actually, so this could indicate a downtrend. But one thing I noticed too is going back, just looking at this, it's so rare to see more than 6 weeks, 6 consecutive weeks of upward dollar price action. I mean, we had another 6 weeker here, and then like 6 weeks is kind of the peak. You have to go all the way back to like 2015 or something to find one where it went more than 6 weeks in a row with green candles. So we're sort of due for a correction here. And the liquidity is sort of indicating that too. So we could see this happen. We could see this reverse. And if this does reverse, this would provide a boost for this. This would make the case for Bitcoin to bump back up into this range here, into this moving average, and kind of give me this exit liquidity that I'm looking for. So that's sort of one thing I'm going to be keeping an eye out on this week, for the rest of this week and next. And then finally, I just wanted to touch on alt dominance, because I know that's a thing too. And alt dominance, it has leveled off a bit. Actually, if we look at this chart, this chart here, um, it went up a fair bit. Again, even last week, it went up another 5.5%. This week, it's basically break even. It's at 0.29 minus 0.29%. What this just means some of your altcoins aren't going down in dollar value as much as Bitcoin is at the moment. This doesn't mean that it's alt season for me right now. This just means that if you were holding alts, maybe for the last 3 weeks, you would have lost a little bit less money, provided you were actually in the right alts, than if you were holding Bitcoin. But if you go and you look at a lot of these alt charts, and their USD pairs, they're all losing money. Like, I'm just going to go through this random smattering of tabs I have here, but everything is going down against USD. Most of it's going down against Bitcoin too. But Bitcoin Cash, I knew this was going to completely retrace anyway. Solana though, this is a big one that a lot of people talk about. It. This is a really popular one. This is just going down in USD value. So maybe you might not have lost as much if you were holding Solana versus Bitcoin, but you're still losing money. Whenever the market is overall in a downtrend, which is what we're seeing here, this is a downtrend. This is the beginning of a downtrend here. And when this is happening, you're losing money. And so it's important in a downtrend to denominate your assets, your crypto assets in USD value. In an uptrend, you want to denominate them in Bitcoin value. In a downtrend, you want to denominate them in USD value because what's important is you don't want to be losing money. And all of these are losing money right now. You're losing you're losing money here. So this is what you need to pay attention to. This doesn't mean it's alt season and it's time to go pile into alts. This means it's time to get out of everything and wait for the market to settle. Um, a crossover of the 20-week moving average, a rollover of the 20-week moving average in crypto has never been a good thing going back many years. So again, don't fade this. Don't fade this signal right here. You're losing money if you stay in these alt positions. I've made this mistake so many times. So, and this is a big, like this H bar, this Hedera hash graph. This is one of those ones that was pumping, last week and a couple weeks ago. This is one of the ones that was driving this alt dominance upswing here. But look at it in dollar value now. It's just you're losing all of that upswing that you had. It's just bleeding back out. Some of these other ones, then you got, I mean, well, this is a random weird little one. I'm not even going to think about that one. Lido, this is another one. Not a great look, not a great look on the weekly against USD. That's just losing value. I think this is a great project. I think that this is going to do well in this cycle. I think that this could do better than ETH potentially. But right now, it's not the time to be buying it. Arbitrum, Arbitrum has basically just gone sideways and done nothing this whole year. I don't even know why people are looking at it in terms of investing anyway. Um, well, Unibot, I'm not going to count this one either because that's just sort of a weird microcap that's only been out like 2 weeks, so whatever. Another one, though, Optimism. This is one I've highlighted a few times. Remember, I was talking about it coming up against this moving average against Bitcoin. Now this moving average is basically continuing to provide resistance, and it hasn't closed above it once yet, even though it had these big, 4-week upswing against Bitcoin to get back to basically its yearly open against Bitcoin. And ever since then, it's just been, being shut down by this 20-week moving average. And then in dollar terms, well, it's in a downtrend too. Um, I don't even know why I have this chart, Shiba. I don't do anything with this, but I had pulled it up because it was actually, I thought it was contributing to that market cap upswing in alts. And I'm sure it was, but even it now is basically just immediately reversing and bleeding back out. And then lastly, these derivatives dexes, they're just all of them right now. This is also a really big sector that I think will probably do pretty well in this next cycle. But right now, they're all bleeding out. A lot of them are doing even way worse than Bitcoin right now. The only one that's sort of holding flat is DYDX. And it's even a tick up against Bitcoin on the year. But like, what are you going to do? Go put all your money in DYDX? Probably not. That's stupid. So, just wait for it to settle. Synthetics, kind of the same thing, also rolling over 4 weeks now downwards. So that's my point with all this. Like you look at this, you think it's alt season. It's not. It's everything is going down. Just alts aren't going down quite as much as Bitcoin is in these last few weeks. But in dollar terms, everything is going down. So this is all you need to be paying attention to right now is this rollover action, this close below, this big candle close below, and just like nothing happening since then. This is not a good look, and it doesn't mean the sky is falling. It doesn't mean any of that. Don't take this to mean that like crypto's bad or it's time to get out or everything. Just take it for what it is. Take it for an opportunity to sell here at this level, be responsible, take adhere to what the price action is telling you, and wait for the market to settle down. This is an opportunity here, not like a warning. So just take it as that and react accordingly. So yeah, I think with that, that's probably all I got. Oh yeah. Oh, lastly, these other ones too. These other ones that were pumping big from the Rune thing last week or a couple weeks ago. All of these have retraced too. I forgot about these. All of these are just, bleeding back out. They'll probably all do a full round trip. Um, same thing. So that was Thor. This one is the actual rune, or I'm sorry, Thor swap, and then rune. Yeah, all of them are losing it. And then this other last one that I had found, this other one that had pumped big in this last chunk of time against Bitcoin, also rolling over. Even though it's sort of holding value against Bitcoin down here, it's rolling over against USD, and it's going to continue. And now it's got a big 5 spot bearish divergence flag up here. So that pump was over. Whatever was going on in alts, at least with these projects, is over. I mean, I know they all had their own individual narratives, but like um, the point being, you know, this is all that matters right here again. So, all right. Anyway, I've repeated myself enough. Yeah, with that, I'll probably end. I did want to again remind everybody, if you're a Real Vision Pro Crypto subscriber, I'm going to be on the um, monthly Discord Distillery show on Wednesday, which should be fun. So I'm looking forward to that. And then otherwise, I'll probably see you guys on Friday. So have a good week, everybody, and we'll see what Friday looks like. All right, talk to you later.